in anticipation for the new Spider-Man No Way From Home movie coming out, I decided to review all the Spider-Mans leading up to the Tobey Maguires, the Andrew Garfields, all those to see which one is the best Spider-Man movie made so far. So we're starting off with Spider-Man 2002 was released by Sam Raimi as directing it. Tobey Maguire starring as Spider-Man / Peter Parker. Willem Dafoe, Kirsten Dunst, James Franco, Cliff Robinson, Rosemary Harris, and J.K. Simmons in it as well. So I'm just going to go through this movie point by point and just talk about some of my favorite aspects and my least favorite aspects of the movie. So we'll jump right into it. To start off, the intro credits were very well done. I like those like 90s style intro credits where it just doesn't show text. It actually gives you something to look at, something intriguing to see, and this was done with spider webs. And one cast member I didn't mention in the intro here is Joe Manganiello as Flash. I feel like he's the best interpretation of Flash so far. Very intimidating, very huge, big guy, and he's just a good adversary for Spider-Man as he's developing his powers and learning them after he first got bit. And just being that typical high school bully, I think he does really well in the role. And along with Joe Manganiello, J.K. Simmons is really great as J. Jonah Jameson. We see him coming back and back for these future films, and we're going to see probably him throughout the whole Spider-Man movie franchise as J. Jonah Jameson, as he's never going to stop playing this role because it's so small but so important, and he just delivers it in a very authentic way. All right, now let's discuss Tobey Maguire as Peter Parker. I feel like he does do an okay job as him. He's very awkward. You see this as MJ waves to her friends behind him, and Peter kind of waves, thinking that she's waving at him. And just his awkwardness that you see throughout the three films, actually, it's very in your face, and you get this kid is not smooth, suave, or any of that. And it kind of goes back to that coming of age high school experience. And this is a good high school vibe to it, even though the actors don't look like they're in high school. You still get that vibe with the bully of Flash, just going through classes and just the high school atmosphere of it all. It's very well done. Okay, let's dive deep into the special effects of this movie. Sam Raimi does some pretty cool special effects, some just neat little camera tricks, like when Peter realizes he does not need glasses, it kind of gets blurry and then focuses. It's a very nice little trick and something I appreciate, along with like the quick zoom ins and all that he does. It's very well done. And then they do the slow-mo technique during the high school fight, and it kind of reminds me of like early Quicksilver development and what it can become in the X-Men films following this movie. But ultimately, they do a lot of CG with this movie, with Spider-Man flying through the air, fighting people. And it's like full CG characters that you kind of notice at times, but kind of you're just so sucked into the story that you don't really care. That's better than some movies today. I feel like this technology hasn't really evolved too much, and this movie really started this trend of full CG characters. One of the early movies to do it, and it works quite well in this movie. It doesn't take you out of it too many times, but it is still well done. I also have to bring up Norman Osborn's character. He's a great villain to Peter as his first villain as he's learning his powers. And I like the use of green they use for him. It's very symbolism of greed, of wealth, of all that. And it's just a nice shade of green that it does, and just very intimidating that Norman Osborn has all this green around him and what it symbolizes. The Green Goblin is great in this movie because of the tone of this movie. They could have came off really bad today because he's very jokey. He's very, feels like he's come straight out of the animated series from the 90s. He's very over the top. He's very just out there and like just dialed to 110% of just craziness. And another character I have to shout out too is Bonesaw. I love this character. Macho Man Randy Savage is great as him. It's good intro to just Spider-Man becoming who he is, getting his name, all that stuff. It's a really great scene and something that I appreciate these early Spider-Man movies with these wrestling kind of intros. The story of this movie is still really well done too. I like the defining moment of him letting the robber go and then killing Ben and just holding grudges, and just the story is just it's about becoming yourself and being a good person and doing good things. And even the dynamic between Harry, MJ, and Peter is great. As Harry's blaming Peter for his dad loving him and all this other stuff, so he gets revenge on him by dating MJ and taking MJ away from Peter. It's just that constant battle between the two of them to one up each other, which is great, and just a great dynamic of the characters that are in this movie. And then lastly here, I'll just touch upon the costume of Spider-Man. I think it's really well done. I don't know how Peter Parker became a seamstress, but it's very elaborate, very technical, and I feel like a kid couldn't actually make that costume. It was kind of unbelievable, but I got over that fact. And I just love the end battle scene and seeing it all ripped in his face. I remember having that action figure growing up as a kid and loved it. It's just a good look of wearing his hair and what he's gone through that I feel like later films don't do as much with Andrew Garfield and Tom Holland. And also this movie does so much for the superhero genre and all. It's just a traditional Spider-Man movie, kind of ripped straight from the comics, but it's great. They don't change much about it. They keep it traditional. But at the end, he does say, "I am Spider-Man," which is what Iron Man says at the end of his movie. So you can see how this movie laid the ground steps or the foundation for up and coming Marvel movies in the future, like Iron Man and other movies in the MCU right now. So with that said, I have to give the film a 76 out of 100. I believe it's streaming on, where did I watch this? On one of the free streaming service, maybe Tubi, I think. Go check it out now. You might have the DVD or a digital download of it. Check it out now before watching Spider-Man Nowhere From Home coming out this weekend, guys. I'll be back with more Spider-Man 2 review and 3, and then so forth and so on. So stay on this channel and check them out.